Social justice warriors, feminists, and the progressive left are apparently entirely against progress and would rather we go back to the Dark Ages. Except for times when land whales are made to feel insecure. But unfortunately, there is this crazy feminist Marxist San Francisco Bay culture. Things like the white privilege nonsense that they love to bandy around and the whole male privilege bullshit. Unfulfilled rape fantasies. There are no evil patriarchal men outside the cave. It's being used as a cover and an excuse for fat, lazy people to continue being fat and lazy. Zoe Quinn, Brianna Wu, and Anita Sarkeesian. Affirmative action for women. Affirmative action for gays and lesbians. Affirmative action for non-whites. No more first world problems. Oh, please God, no more first world problems. I can't handle any more of them. As this sort of feminist, cultural, Marxist bubble. Unless, of course, that person is a straight white male. At which point you can presumably just condemn him to the pits of hell. More victim complex. And you will accept it, you filthy, patriarchal, oppressive shitlord!
Okay, people. You asked for it. You fucking got it. I would just advise that in future you be more careful with what you wish for. Hello there, hello there, hello there, and welcome to episode 7 of The Descent of Man-osphere, the series in which I take you through the ways in which individuals from the Man-osphere are trying to reverse human evolution and drag us back into the fucking sea. Which is rather appropriate because today we're dealing with a man who is pretending to be a fucking deer, so I can only imagine that the yif is strong with this one. I am of course talking about TLDR, or Teal Deer. Well, I don't know where you're getting those fucking vowels from, but anyway. Or as I prefer to call him, Cockface. Because, you know, that's the only reason I can imagine that he doesn't show his face on camera, because he's got a face that looks like a big, veiny, throbbing cock. But anyways, Teal Deer is an absolutely inexplicably popular YouTuber. At the time of recording this, he has over 66,000 subscribers, which is absolute madness when you consider what an absolutely remorselessly boring bastard he is. I mean, seriously, he makes watching paint dry seem like a coke-fueled sex orgy.
Less, you know, such a doesn't understand
So
video.
tedious.
Looking at an article.
I can't take it anymore.
People are subscribed to my channel. You know, all my collaborations, the AMA videos, the open season videos, they're all severely less trafficked than the main bits of content that I do on so.
But anyway, old Cockface is one of the most annoying little twats because he does this thing that a lot of these MRA fuckwads do. They'll say, oh, I'm not an MRA, and then go on to ramble on the same fucking shit, the same talking points, the same arguments. Look, no one believes you. You are a fucking MRA. Just deal with it. And by the way, to all the MRAs out there, do you think your brand might be a little bit poisonous? Now anyway, in terms of his style, Teal Deer has one form of communication, and that is mansplaining. Seriously, I defy anyone to find me a video of his where he doesn't condescendingly explain some simple shit, like the smuggest, most arrogant twat in the world. Now look, I know I'm a condescending fucker, but this guy is absolutely fucking unreal. Now I'd like to kick off proceedings for this edition by showing you something which he doesn't talk about very often, but is a sort of core part of his ideology, as it were. Now I thought I'd share this with you at the start of the video because I think it speaks volumes as to the tsunami of fucking bigoted bullshit that will be spewing forth from Teal Deer as this video progresses.
I mean, if you take someone like me who is an antinatalist, I have morally decided that having children is wrong. I have morally decided that having a child is an immoral act and no one should do it. And
yes, that's right. This douchebag thinks that having kids is inherently immoral. Whereas the rest of the world sees childbirth as one of the most magnificent and glorious parts of the human experience, he thinks it's something that nobody should fucking do, ever, right? I mean, that is some fucking dumb shit. But oh wait, it gets even better, by which I mean it gets significantly fucking worse.
I believe that having children is immoral. I do not think that any person has the right to force life upon someone.
Yes, that's right. He has taken the bullshit libertarian madness to its logical, illogical conclusion. He has determined that forcing life on somebody is a tyrannical imposition. Now, I think I'm ready to call it, and this is a big claim, right? But I think that is the dumbest shit that any of these fuckers have said. In the whole course of this series so far, that is the dumbest, most stupid, ridiculous shit that any of them have said. And bear in mind, I did an episode of this series about War Corp 666, who's basically a fucking borderline vegetable at this point, and yet even he has been outstripped in the stupidity stakes by Teal Deer with this fucking nonsense. Well done, cuckface, you utter fucking moron. Now, during his many dreary, dull, fucking soporific response videos, there are a variety of bullshit moves that he will pull in order to fool his audience of dribbling simpletons. He will quote mine the fuck out of basically anybody for any fucking reason. He will engage in industrial strength confirmation bias. He will totally ignore the point that the person actually fucking made and just go on a long rambling rant about the bog standard MRA talking points. But he's not an MRA, obviously. Of course not. He will use any number of other logical fallacies, and he engages in absolutely fucking comical levels of lack of self-awareness. But his two main go-to power moves are the outright lie.
And let's not forget that sneaky little pay gap.
You mean that non-existent one? Given that we live in a very gynocentric culture where social justice warriors, feminists, and the progressive left are apparently entirely against progress and would rather we go back to the Dark Ages. I wonder, now that I, someone who is not an MRA,
and responding to any claim that any feminist makes, however reasonable the claim may be, with citation needed. Seriously, if a feminist claimed that rain was wet, this fucking dog turd of a man would respond with citation needed, or some other such diversionary tactic like a petulant little fucking asshole. And whilst we're on this point, yes, it's the inevitable bit about rape. This is bound to be fucking fun, right?
And so it's vitally important that we think carefully about the language that we're using and the impact that it has. It also really matters how we talk about rape and how we talk about victims. When we hear that somebody's been raped and we see a news report or hear a conversation where there are people talking about what the victim was wearing, asking what she was doing there at that time of night or why she'd been drinking, we send the message that somehow she was partly to blame for what happened to her, or that there was something that she could have done to stop it from happening.
once again, this is a nebulous strawman claim. Who says these things? Who asks these questions?
I responded by saying that in dressing so provocatively, there is a possibility that her daughter was marking herself out as a potential victim for people with sexual desires.
Women have, of course, generally been portrayed as mere helpless victims in this interaction. However, if 92% of women know they're rapists, then it's hard to say that they are pure victims in the matter, given that rapists, genuine rapists, come with a wide variety of markers for dysfunction and violence in other areas.
You need to realize that presenting yourself in certain ways does make you open to certain crimes. Does it make it okay that the crime was committed? No, it doesn't. Does it make it okay for criminals to do these things? No, it doesn't. But that doesn't mean you did not play a role in the crime that was committed against you.
How many of you guys, in your own experience with women, have learned that no means yes if you know how to spot it?
This then bleeds into the weakest claims of rape, which are of the ilk that, sure, I chose of my own volition to get drunk off my face, full in the knowledge that such intoxication in a public place was going to make me more gregarious.
In recent years, images of victim blaming have risen in the media, and these pictures are not so innocent or entertaining.
A controversial judge in Montana who once stated that an underage rape victim was, in part, responsible for her attack by one of her teachers, will receive a Lifetime Achievement Award from his local bar association.
Mom, someone took advantage of me. But what did she expect to happen at 1 a.m. in the morning after sneaking out? I'm not saying, assuming that these facts are accurate and this did happen, I'm not saying that she deserved to be raped, but...
I'm not saying that she deserved to be raped, but...
So, no, it's not a fucking straw man at all, is it, you lying shitbag? But anyway, let's move on, shall we? Anyway, I think it's about time that I did some white knighting, don't you? But I'm not going to be white knighting for a woman on this occasion. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm going to be white knighting for a man. Because when the world expects me to zig, I zag, motherfuckers.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Now, old Cockface made a couple of response videos to a guy called Steve Chiveth. Although he calls himself Shives, but clearly it's Chiveth. He's just obviously a self-hating Latino. You see the kind of emotional damage that can be done to young Hispanic men like Chiveth by Donald Trump's incendiary comments. Yeah, and good luck to those watching in a couple of years' time trying to unpick that fucking reference. Hello, people from the future. Anyway, Chiveth makes a series called 5 Stupid Things, in which he takes you through a topic by mentioning 5 stupid things about that topic, and he's also done a few follow-ups called 5 More Stupid Things. So Teal Deer made response videos to 5 stupid things about the men's rights movement and 5 more stupid things about the men's rights movement. Because, you know, obviously, he's not an MRA in any way whatsoever, obviously, right? So anyway, it's the antlered asshole versus the Maryland mangina. Let's fucking do this thing!
Teal Deer, let's do a little bit more of the stuff on my to-do list, shall we?
Oh god, he's not going to suffocate a hooker to death and then fuck her twitching corpse live on camera, is he? Oh, sorry, alright, his to-do list, not his bucket list. Okay, sorry, right, okay, right.
Hey, here are 5 stupid things I've noticed about the men's rights movement. It's misogynistic. This is the one inescapable fact about the men's rights movement that makes it impossible for me to support. Are there legitimate issues raised by reasonable voices within the movement? Absolutely, and I'll talk about a few of those in a minute, but the movement itself is essentially misogynistic.
Well, if you acknowledge that there are some very good points brought up by the movement, then I guess that makes you a misogynist. Seriously, quantify this doublethink for me. This thing over here is entirely, essentially misogynistic.
Did you see how deviously he changed the fucking word there? Because Chiveth said...
essentially.
And Cockface changed it to...
entirely, essentially misogynistic.
You see, Teal Deer, essentially and entirely are 2 different words with 2 different fucking meanings. He wasn't saying that everything about the men's rights movement was misogynistic, obviously, because as you go on to mention in your fucking response video, Shives admits that they do occasionally bring up important topics. And you know that's what he's fucking saying, you lying little fuck. You utter, complete bullshit merchant.
If the men's rights movement is not, therefore, inherently entirely misogynistic. So, in reality, your claim should be that the men's rights movement produces several very valid points from people who are not misogynists, but that the group suffers from some people who are misogynists associating themselves with the movement. Your level of logic would be like me taking an example of a radical feminist who wants to kill all men and saying that feminism is inherently entirely misandrist.
Which is precisely what you do, all the fucking time. Have you ever seen your channel before?
So I have to wonder, now that I, someone who is not an MRA, has presented you with all of this evidence, are you going to take this issue seriously? I'm willing to bet probably not. In fact, if you ever do watch this, you'll probably just point at me and call me an MRA and say that I'm being sexist and not take it seriously.
Seriously, dude, there is nobody who believes that you aren't an MRA, okay? Just give it up. Nobody's fucking buying it.
Teal Deer. Hi, Steve. Do you remember me, Steve? You gonna talk to me yet, Steve? Maybe acknowledge a few of my points, Steve? Maybe post some counter-arguments of your own, Steve?
Oh, for fuck's sake. Get the fuck over yourself. Seriously, okay? Chiveth very rarely makes responses to anybody about fucking anything, okay? I mean, he hasn't even fucking responded to the dick pics I sent him months ago. So what makes you think you're that fucking special, eh? I mean, he's ignored the attacks of much bigger and much better fucking YouTubers than you in the past, okay? So suck it up, dry your eyes, and get the fuck over yourself.
Here are 5 more stupid things about the men's rights movement.
I just hope that some neck-bearded, basement-dwelling, fedora-wearing perma-virgin doesn't come and spread his misogynistic euphoria all over it.
Selective acceptance. Men's rights activists don't typically exhibit terribly positive attitudes toward women.
Citation needed.
Citation needed.
Oh, I got this one. Yes, to put it pretty fucking mildly, the MRM has very bad PR when it comes to their dealings with women. But then again, I'm pretty well sure that you already fucking knew that and you're just playing a stupid game, aren't you?
Anyway, if MRAs hate women so much, why are there women who agree with them? Funny how that same logic doesn't seem to apply to men who support feminism.
That's because the two are fundamentally very different. Men's rights activists tend to have objective goals to achieve. A few examples would be making it illegal to surgically alter the genitals of all infants below the age of majority outside of medical necessity, which is a specific legal right and protection afforded to females within the Western world, but not to males. Objective criteria for success. The concept that selective service, or the draft, should either be abolished for men or extended to include women.
So you're literally just going to completely ignore the point that Shiveth was making then, eh? Dickhead.
Dishonest denial. One of the most interesting phenomena surrounding the men's rights movement is how many men will strenuously deny having any association with it, even while parroting its talking points. And really, who can blame them? The men's rights movement is so toxic, so obviously fueled by bigotry and male insecurity that even people who agree with everything MRAs typically say don't want to be taken for one.
Psst, cockface. He's talking about you. Not just you, obviously, but, you know, you get the idea.
And when that doesn't work, when they are unable to overwhelm feminists with the sheer force of abuse, they resort to other equally vapid tactics.
Like blocking them on Twitter.
Oh, Jesus H. fucking Christ. You are such a pissy, moany little fucker, aren't you? Please just grow the fuck up already.
It's not that he gives a shit about those women.
Citation needed. A lot of MRAs are actually concerned about the treatment of all people in third world countries, which is why many refer to themselves as the MHRM, Men's Human Rights Movement.
No, they clearly don't give a fuck about the third world in the slightest, okay? And the fact that they call themselves MHRAs is just the sugarcoating that they've applied to the turd that is themselves. Just as the British Freedom Party, a neo-Nazi political party here in Britain, have no interest in the concept of freedom, and in America the American Families Association doesn't really give two fucks about families particularly, and they're just essentially a bunch of fucking homophobes who want to bash gay people. They add these nice, fluffy, warm, fuzzy words to their names to make them seem like nice people, to mask the fact that they're not nice people. It's a tactic that most extremist groups employ. It's called propaganda. So seriously, point me to all these examples of MRAs giving a fuck about the third world. Yeah, I won't be holding my fucking breath on that one.
Spreading fear and paranoia about a non-existent epidemic of false rape allegations.
Steve, Rolling Stone, have you heard of it? Good. They published a rape story. It was completely fictitious.
Oh, for fuck's sake, that's one story, dude. And I know you go on to mention a couple of other high-profile incidences of that, but that does not equate to the epidemic that Shiveth was talking about, does it? But then again, I should have expected such fucking dishonest shit from a little dickhead like you.
This is not a civil rights movement as it claims to be. This is a hate group, populated by resentful failures too weak to carry their own baggage.
Speaking of failures who are too weak to carry their own baggage, isn't it funny, Steve, that by your own admission you had to beg for other people to give you their money so that you wouldn't be living below the poverty line? But yeah, you sure are in the position to be calling other people pathetic.
They're some of the most pathetic human beings known to me.
Whoa, hang on. Did anyone else notice that? The most pathetic humans known to me. That's a very odd turn of phrase, isn't it, Steve? Because normally in a situation like that you'd say known to man, or known to mankind. But no, your opinion and your view is above that. Because in your sick, twisted little mind, you are the only good man, the only true man, and every other man is beneath you and to be judged by you.
What the fuck are you even talking about, you mad bastard? Shiveth was really obviously saying there that they are some of the most pathetic people known to him, in the sense that he doesn't know about every single group of people in the fucking world, okay? So it was actually quite a self-effacing and humble thing to say. I mean, an accurate thing in the sense that obviously none of us have all of that knowledge, but you get the idea, right? But somehow in your fucking warped mind you've managed to turn that humble comment and twist it into this fucking grotesque thing where you're saying he thinks he's the only real man left. What the fuck are you talking about, you utter fucking lunatic? You mental case. Now, MRAs, or pretend not MRAs, will pretend when they're giving advice to women about how they should dress and what they should do with their sex lives that they're not slut-shaming. But Teal Deer don't play that shit. He just comes right out and says it. I agree with slut-shaming, and here's why slut-shaming is fucking awesome.
Women, however, operate on a qualifying paradigm. Because for a woman to reproduce, it's incredibly time-consuming and actually, essentially, possibly fatal for her to do so. If a woman sleeps with a lot of men, it proves that she has incredibly low standards because she is incapable of actually judging who is a quality mate.
If only humanity had invented loads of different ways of trying to prevent pregnancy, and therefore remove the physical dangers of pregnancy, allowing women to have much more open sex lives. And if those methods weren't employed, if only we'd created some sort of pill that could, terminate the pregnancy before it really got going. But not just that, but even if that pill wasn't taken, having some sort of mechanism in place by which you could, stop or terminate or abort the pregnancy at some point, and therefore removing the physical dangers of taking that pregnancy to term. I mean, if humanity had done any of those things, right, we could do away with your fucking evolutionary mumbo-jumbo. But, obviously humanity hasn't done any of those things, so clearly you're correct. But I think I found out the real reason why he's so upset with women.
And let's go one step even further and realise that there are increasing numbers of women citing sexual dissatisfaction as reason to end monogamous relationships.
I know, right? How dare women want to have sexually satisfying relationships? Fucking bitches, am I right? Look, I get that you've never been able to make a girl come in your entire fucking life, but have you ever thought, right, that if all the women you've been with have never been able to get off, that maybe you, as the common denominator, are the fucking problem there, and maybe you need to put a bit of fucking effort in? Just a thought for you to mull over there in your fucking half a dozen brain cells. Now, Teal Deer is a Gamergator. You know Gamergate, that hashtag movement that's totally about ethics in video game journalism and got nothing to do with sexism whatsoever.
Shoal, with an afro, asks, why do you think people have a negative viewpoint on the Gamergate movement? I think this comes down to the spread of misinformation. You look at all the major news networks in the mainstream media.
Oh really? So I suppose it would be absolutely impossible for me to do a really simple Google search and find loads of examples of leading Gamergators saying hateful, bigoted or just generally sexist shit, right? Roll the fucking clips. Now, in terms of his politics, Teal Deer is the kind of guy that thinks that Donald Trump is a little bit too politically correct for his likings. And yes, that is a second Donald Trump reference in the same episode, because, you know, I can do topical shit. I'm basically like Jon Stewart, but, you know, not very good. But anyways, as I was saying, Cockface is an absolute right-wing asshole. Now, he believes that the left wing has been taken over by feminists, and that feminists hate men. Now, considering he believes both of these things, what I'm about to show you might seem a little bit strange.
Teal Deer, let's crack on with my to-do list, shall we? Let's start by looking at an article from the New Statesman, entitled "A Male Rape Charity Has Had Its Funding Slashed to Zero."
Yes, that would be a story covering the removal of government funding from a men's charity being covered in the New Statesman, a left-wing magazine here in Britain, which was founded by the Socialist Fabian Society, for fuck's sake. But let's have a look at the other news sources he uses in his video. Yes, you've got Justice for Men and Boys there, which is a pathetic MRA attempt at a political party. That's pretty obvious, I suppose. Then you've got The Independent, which is a left-wing newspaper. That's a bit odd, isn't it? That doesn't play into your narrative at all. And then you've got Salon.com, another left-of-centre news outlet. Now, isn't it interesting, Teal Deer, that 3 of the 4 citations you give for this story were from left-wing organisations and media outlets? Now, here's another little interesting tidbit that I dug up doing a little bit of research. Now, that is that of the top 7 selling right-wing daily newspapers here in Britain, only 1, the Daily Telegraph, actually covered this story, which means 6 of the top 7 did not. So either it's actually the right wing that have been taken over by the man-hating feminazi Illuminati, or you're totally wrong about fucking everything. Yes, that's right, left-wing outlets have been covering the story and right-wing outlets have not. So if you want to point your finger at one side of the political spectrum that doesn't give a fuck about men's issues, maybe you should look at your own side. So anyway, let's wrap this shit up, shall we? TLDR is the absolutely perfect representation of the fact that the men's rights movement is populated largely by pathetically, desperately insecure, small-minded, bigoted misogynists. His childish lashing out at women, political correctness, the advancement of racial and sexual minorities, people with weight issues, trans people, feminists, and basically anyone with any vague interest in any kind of social progress whatsoever can be seen for what it is. The actions of a white, straight, cis man, desperately trying to preserve the absolute dominance of the political, social and economic sphere by white, straight, cis men. So, as one white, straight, cis man to another, Teal Deer, go fuck yourself.
Someone told me it's all happening at the zoo. I do believe it. I do believe it's true. Someone tells me it's all happening at the zoo. I do believe it. I do believe it's true. The monkeys stand for honesty, giraffes are insincere, and the elephants are kindly but they're dumb. Orangutans are skeptical of change.